Alright, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to wire up my three-way switch and get it installed in the guitar. Basically the ground wire will wire to this side, and then on this side where there's the 3 selectors, I'll put the hot wire in the center. The hot wire is going to go all the way to the input jack, and this is going to go to ground. It's important to tin both sides before you start. Tin both the wire and the switch. Also, when you're doing it, it helps to have a good soldering gun, soldering station, to where you don't have to leave heat on there forever to make it happen. And even if you're using rosin core solder, it's still a good idea to put just a little bit of flux on the connectors. It just helps the solder flow better when you put that on there. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to tin my switch. And basically just the soldering iron goes on there and just a little bit of solder. Just enough to tin the switch. And it helps if you have one of these little devices. It just holds the solder better. I'll put this one sideways. Maybe you can see how it's going to go a little bit better. And basically I'm just going to hold the soldering gun on it. It's going to get a little bit of heat. I'm going to put a little bit on there. And then you can see how it just runs right into the wire. That way when I get ready to solder this onto the switch, the solder will flow right into each other. So that's the power wire. And then I'm going to spin it around and I'm going to install the ground wire as well. And here's my toggle switch all ready to install. I've got my 2 wires right here that are going to go to the pickups, bridge and neck. This is my hot wire that's going to go all the way to the input jack. And then this is my ground wire going in. I'm going to install this switch from the back. And of course when you do this, you're going to want to feed the wires through. And I can make sure the switch is going to go in the right way. Now, one thing I do have for this is I have a pickup ring, or the switch selector ring, which a lot of times I don't put on. But this way, I wanted it on this one. And it's just a sticky back plastic. It's got sticky tape on it, so it'll adhere to the guitar. And then it'll be held down with the jam nut on the switch itself. So I've got that on, nice and straight, and I'm ready to tighten my switch down. I'm going to hold off putting the knob on for now because I am going to be flipping it over. But as you can see, the switch is in. The wires did have to bend a little bit, but that's fine because I've got the heat shrink on them, and the switch is installed, ready to go, and selector switch cover is installed. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and feed these through the rest of the way. So I'm ready to start soldering up the remaining wire. But as you can see now, I've got all the wire coming out the back of the guitar, and I'll be ready to start soldering up my volume and tone pots. Chart here with the bare knuckle pickups that I put in, and you can see it goes from pickup selector, which is my 3-way switch, to my center lug on both my volumes. And then what will happen is the pickups will be grounded to each volume knob, and then the hot wire put in, and then the transistor wired between the two. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and solder, especially your the pots. Don't put the heat on for too long, because what will happen is you can actually damage the pot itself. And I've got the lug soldered, to each pot. I've got my pickup selector wires wired into the pickup, and then when I get ready to install my pickups, the grounding will solder to the casing of the switch to the knob, and then the wire will come down. What I'm going to do next to the lug is I'm going to go ahead and do my grounds, and I've got the 3 separate grounds. And like I said, what I'm going to do is I've got my ground from my bridge, I've got my ground from my switch, and then I've got my ground from my input jack. And all 3 of these I'm going to solder to this tone knob, which is going to be actually my rhythm neck position tone knob. I'm going to solder all 3 of them to that. I've taken my input jack switch and I've went right to the lug, where the lug goes onto there. I've taken my input jack switch and I've went to the case, and of course with it grounded to the lug in the case here that's grounded, and then from here, from my bridge, I also went to the case on that knob. So that's it all wired up. The only thing I have left to do is run my capacitors from here to here and from here to here, and wire the capacitors because I need to wire them in the same slot that I wired the pickup in. That way it prevents me from soldering and resoldering. Alright, I've also got my input jack mounted. It's ready to go. And then all that's left now is, like I said, to do the pickups. Before I do the pickups, I'm actually going to install the neck, because what that'll allow me to do is, by installing the neck and the bridge, I'll be able to make sure I get the pickups centered. I'll install the E-strings, top and bottom E-strings on it once I get it done, and that way it'll allow me to center the pickups in there.